Hi friends, I'm Prairie Vintage. My name is Linda. I know I just finished a video saying I wouldn't see you for a bit, and now you get to see me. Yay! I wanted to do a video actually. I was about to do my meditation and I got a download, and Spirit was telling me this isn't a card reading video, okay? So if you're wanting a card reading, you'll have to wait until, well, you can go on YouTube and find another one, but you have to wait till I come back into the reading energy, of course, unless I'm guided to do this, although Spirit has my back for taking some time off, just a break. I need a break. But Spirit was guiding me to make this video in regards to spiritual awakening, Kundalini, twin flames, all of this stuff that runs through, very common in my channel. And specifically, there's been I guess one energy coming through in regards to the dark night of the soul, somebody experiencing ego death. We'll get into all of that, but best to hear about these terms, this experience through somebody who's actually experienced what we're talking about, because you can have a whole lot of theory and you can have a whole lot of knowledge in regards to all of these areas, but unless you truly experience what it's like to have a dark night of the soul or to go through a spiritual awakening, whatever journey you're on. And of course, everyone's journey is different. So not that it will be exactly like mine, but relating what you can expect for throughout this journey, I think is going to be helpful, because I do sense there is at least one person here who I'm going to assist, because I do feel there is some suffering, some challenges around this piece of the journey. So thank you for being here. Like I mentioned, if you're new to my channel, welcome. And let's get into, I don't have anything written, but the sole purpose of this is weaving through, I guess, what a spiritual awakening is and a Kundalini, and how these two things are different and intertwined, and what you can expect, I guess. Okay, so a spiritual awakening is something that you are on your path to finding your higher version of yourself. You're aligning yourself with a greater force. You know that there is a God, spirit, source, something greater than humanity that's kind of pulling you towards greater consciousness. Okay, there is something outside of everyday matrix mundane living, and you're being called to align to this sort of energy. Now, your spiritual journey can be self-induced. You could just all of a sudden, want to learn more about being an enlightened being, and you start to get involved in yoga, meditation. Different religions can trigger spiritual awakening. Certain situations can trigger you to want to be curious about spiritual awakening, and you could be pulled by spirit to be on a path of your spiritual awakening, which is calling for you. Okay, so a lot of times when we experience events in our life, such as death, divorce, encountering our soul, which is meeting our twin flame, experiencing traumatic events such as the pandemic, which I know has triggered a lot of spiritual awakenings, people get kind of put into a position of, what is this all for? And starting to really question self and really look at themselves in their everyday and see through illusion, see through facade, see through the matrix. So that would involve being very curious. That would involve sitting and reflecting. That would involve a lot of shadow work when we're looking at ourselves and our shadow and why we do things and how our traumas and our events have impacted us. So that would be the spiritual awakening for the most part. Now, Kundalini awakening, I was looking online to see, what is the difference between a spontaneous Kundalini awakening and a gradual Kundalini awakening, and how do I know whether I was going through a spiritual awakening or a Kundalini awakening? And I was not quite sure, and I now know, like I know who I am inside. What I was going through was a Kundalini awakening, very gradual, although very, very intense in certain aspects. So let me get into it. But first of all, I want to mention through this experience, it was triggered by all of the above. Okay, all of the above, experience of death, going through separation, meeting my twin flame, all of these things, and throughout the pandemic, everything kind of perfect stormed me into this spiritual awakening and Kundalini. Okay, so you don't have to be on a spiritual journey or spiritual awakening to have a Kundalini, nor do you have a Kundalini when you're on your spiritual awakening, because those are two different things, although they can happen simultaneously. Okay, so there is no real sort of step-by-step process in these things that I'm going to mention, but I will get into all the different things that I experienced throughout my journey that I can now put together. And some of it was overlapping, and some of it I'm obviously still exploring, but it kind of is making a lot more sense now, you know, however many years in. So where do I want to begin? I guess, okay, so where I want to begin is going through certain events in my life, whatever they happen to be, because I mean, the death of both my parents happened like a couple years apart. So as this is happening, I mean, we're still kind of in the, you know, living day to day. Like, I'm doing my functions, I'm just kind of existing. I'm not really, like, I'm saddened, and you feel sadness, you feel emotion, you can still feel emotion. And then as you're kind of trying to live your life and, you know, grieve and get over traumas and just kind of take one day at a time, I slowly got into an energy of seeing synchronicities and numbers. Okay, so this was happening simultaneously at the same time that I was going through a separation, and I had already met my twin flames. So twin flames do trigger, they're a catalyst to you wakening up to your true self. Okay, that's the sole purpose of a twin flame. You meet someone, your soul incarnated at the same time your soul is here. So both physical bodies are coming from the same source, from the same soul, split into two bodies. And when you come into contact energetically with your twin flame, it triggers you to remember who you are. Or at least you're on a journey of trying to remember who you are. So you're becoming more aware of your authentic being that's been shoved down through years of conditioning and your ego building an identity for yourself and all these things that you've been attached to, who you say you are. Like, I am a mother, I am, you know, a salesperson, I am a YouTuber, I am whatever these things that you are. And you slowly detach from these things to really try to gain a good look as to who you are authentically, who you know to be. And it's a return to familiar energy. So it's a long process. I hope I can remember the important parts here because it's been a while. But it did start with the synchronicities of numbers. Like, and I'm talking about, because I wasn't into all this like woohoo stuff. Like, I've always been reading tarot. Maybe tarot could be woohoo for some of you guys, or, you know, this mystical occult type stuff. But I was not one to believe or even know what twin flames are. I was not one to believe that, you know, seeing something repetitively means anything other than either you're looking for it or it's just happening around you. And don't put any weight on this, okay? Like, nothing. Like, I'm total skeptic about whatever was going on in that sort of a fashion. But I was literally seeing 111, 1111, 222, 333, 444, 555. I wasn't seeing a lot of 666. And it started with repetitive numbers, okay? And I'm talking about like because obviously I was at work, I'd be in front of the computer, there's papers around me, you're interacting. It was happening with almost every single thing I touch. If I'm driving, and a license plate and an address and a sign, all I could see was repeating numbers to the point where it was so scary. Like, I was, what the F is going on? Like, I wanted to turn it off at a certain point. And I guess when you're really like freaked out, then you start seeing it more. So people be like, well, it's because you're freaked out and now you're just seeing it everywhere because your mind. No. Because at first I wasn't freaked out at all. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's so cool. That's so cool. Like, I'm seeing these numbers. And then it was like, the universe was like slapping me saying, this isn't cool, you stupid. Like, we're trying to like shake you and wake you up. So it was like, boom, boom, boom. Like, I'd look here, I'd look there, I'd look, and I was like, oh my God, like, stop with the numbers. Like, I really felt like I was in a movie. Like, stop with the numbers. I had to pull over because I remember I was seeing, like, I'll get into the sequence. It was pretty much all repetitive numbers. It came gradually. I think the 1s and the 2s were there from the beginning, and the 3s were there from the beginning. The 4s started to come in, and then the 5s, and then the 7s, and then the 8s, and yeah, the 9s, and then seeing mirrored numbers. So anyway, back to, sorry, I'm trying to explain how this all happened. So I'm pulled over on the side of the road, and I'm just like shaking like crazy because I'm thinking, like, am I in like some alternate reality? Like, what the fuck is going on? Why do I keep seeing numbers? Like, this is like really crazy, right? So I'm like, God, like, what are you telling me? Like, I don't know what you want. Like, I really don't know what you want. I'm listening. Tell me, but you're freaking me out. Like, stop with these numbers. Please stop. Like, it scared me. And I didn't know what it wanted. It was so intense. During this time as well, I was having intense dreams, okay, that I would remember. And I normally remember my dreams, but I don't have them every night. But I started to have more dreams and remembering them more. And they started to feel more emotional in the dream. And they seemed like to have meaning. So there was a few there that were really significant that made me wake up and think, like, was that real? Like, I really felt like I was really doing something in my dreams. So the dreams were happening. The emotions and the dreams I was tied to. So I don't know if you don't dream that, or everybody dreams, but I don't know if you're somebody who doesn't remember your dreams, if, you know, that's going to be significant. I think it will be, because I think if you're someone who doesn't dream, you'll start to remember dreams a little bit more, or at least wake up and feel like that was something significant for you. But because I always was in tune with dreams, like when people would pass away in my life, I'd dream about that person, like within a 3 to 6 month window, like an actual visitation from that person. And I'd have very significant, profound dreams, prophetic dreams that are telling me. And so that was always throughout my life. But this is different because I felt like every night I was having a dream where I felt like I was progressing or carrying something or moving something. It just felt like something was happening during my dreams. Like I was doing something energetically in my dreams, okay? So, and then of course I would feel my twin flame in my dreams too, because once you're on the twin flame journey, you can't detach from your twin flame, and the mental thought is constant in your mind, which is another piece of this whole thing. You think you're going crazy. So during these numbers, okay, and I'll finish the number thing, because kind of more, not even midway, but after maybe about a year of seeing numbers, it started to be, or repeat numbers, it started to be mirrored numbers, okay, like 1001 and 1221, or even 1212, 1010, that happened at the beginning, 1010, 1212, just like, yeah, very much duplication or mirrored numbers, and then reverse. And then I started to see like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, or like 4 8 8 8 4. Like, and I know of course you're gonna say, well, there's gonna be a sequence of number, but there was always a sequence of either mirroring or a sequence of repetitive, or the ends match that. Or if I'd add these numbers in my mind, and I suck at math, but it would just like happen. I'm adding this side, like my battery and my phone, and I would just glance and I'm like, they add up to the exact same number, which would be like 1010, or like freaking 4040, or whatever the number was. And it was like nonstop, like constantly. Like after a certain point, I just surrendered. I'm like, I'm gonna look at the time. It's gonna say, 444, and I'd look, sure enough, 444. It's like, okay, it's like, it's a constant, okay. And then even the weather, it'd be like, -1 at 111, or like 1111 -1, my battery is at like 11%. And I'd see like constant reinforcement from the universe with these numbers. I did not know what those numbers meant. This is very early in me trying to piece things together, okay? This is early, so those are first starts. So let's get back with the twin flame thing. So you can meet someone who is the catalyst to this. So you start seeing these numbers, okay? And you might not know if this person's your twin flame, because I mean, you're questioning this and you're online and you're trying to see like, what's with this person? Like, I don't even understand why I'm having dreams or feeling these intense feelings without any sort of logical sense. Like your mind doesn't understand it, but your soul and your body understands it. So you're experiencing something, but your head and your mind is someplace else. It's not aligned at the same time. So you can't make sense of it. So you try to resist it, or even think that it's a thing. You think you're crazy because it's like, I can't logically mentally explain this, so therefore it shouldn't exist, or therefore I'm crazy, or therefore it is just something I'm experiencing but it's not real, or it's real but it doesn't mean what I think it means. And so you start making all these stories, okay, because that's what the mind does about what you're experiencing. And why it's so triggering is because something ties back to that person. It always kind of ties back. It's like, when did I start seeing this? Right around the time I met this person. Why do I feel this way? Why am I constantly thinking about this person? So you have these obsessive, constant, obsessive thoughts. You cannot stop. It's like for 2 years straight, you're just in your mind about this energy with this person, the tie to this person, the thought of this person. It's like a constant gnawing at you that is just not going away. And it's so draining. You're just like wanting an off switch. You don't want to think about this person. You don't want to be in your mind about it. You don't want any of that, but it's just like happening to you, like on the speaker, constant. It's almost like wearing a headset that is looping the same sound over and over, and you can't turn it off and you can't put the volume down. So it's going to constantly happen. So at least with that, eventually you can zone out, right? And maybe you get used to that noise, but this is like so loud and piercing that it's like every time you hear that, you have to acknowledge it. You have to acknowledge it. And you're so exhausted and tired. So the second piece of this, okay, I don't know when my Kundalini started, but I'll tell you when the intense emotions started happening, which I believe are definitely our Kundalini. So throughout this period, and this is, hopefully is helping somebody who thinks they're going insane. Throughout this period of time, obsessive thoughts, the dreams, the numbers, I am so exhausted, okay? I am so tired. And one thing that I experienced, being pregnant was a heavy tiredness. So anyone who's been pregnant knows that tired feeling where it's just all of a sudden you're like, boom, like you're tired. You're just exhausted. And it's not even when you're like, 8 months or close to delivery. It's like early on in the pregnancy where you get these like tired spells. This is like that times 500. Like you're so exhausted, and it most likely because of the constant thoughts in your mind racing and being in your head, that you're just so tired. Okay. Your mind feels tired. And at this point, it feels almost like you haven't slept. Because I know when I was younger and I'd, pull all-nighters and you stay awake, and then the next day you're kind of delirious, but you're also so clued out and you can't do maths and you're just like so spaced out and things are happening and you feel like you're in a dream, and then you're like so out of it and you just know that you need to sleep, but you're past that. So you're not like want to close your eyes or fall asleep, or just beyond tired where now you can't sleep, but your mind is like, if you suffer insomnia, then your mind is like suffering from needing rest. So at work, I could not for the life of me concentrate. And I'm a pretty detail-oriented, person who pays attention to detail and is very much able to concentrate and focus. I don't have ADD. I'm not very scattered. I can hold a thought and I can clear a task. That is my main award for me, being like who I am, or who I thought I was, right? Somebody who is diligent, somebody who could put things together, somebody who could focus, and not at all, not even close. I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus, and I was like, why am I so spaced out? Like, what the hell is happening? So I started to really like, at this point in time, I was like, okay, clearly I'm going through, I thought, a burnout, because I've been working throughout all my life since I could work like a lot of hours. So I thought, okay, I'm going through a burnout, I'm really tired, and I might be going through some sort of depression here, because I feel an energy in me that is now thinking that I'm going crazy. And it's not like I was feeling sad depression. It was almost like I thought it was a sort of a depression, because my emotions were all over the place, almost like I was bipolar, or I was, and my mom suffered from bipolarism. So I didn't know, like, am I turning into my mother? Like, is there something? And of course, if you're experiencing anything chemistry wise, you should definitely see a doctor. Okay. And just rule that out. But I was experiencing these, I don't even know so much as mood swings, but all of a sudden I'd be like in my head and think I'm crazy. And then I'd feel the feeling of that. And then I'd be in a constant kind of buzz of, I don't like how I feel, because I can't get out of it. It's almost like so ungrounded. And you're like, okay, I need to get grounded. So right around this time as well, I started back into my tarot, because like I said, I've always read tarot, but just kind of more casually. But I was like, I feel like I need an outlet. I feel I need to let something out here. So I started reading tarot, and as you can tell, my YouTube channel's been around forever, and that was mostly because of my website selling jewelry. So I wasn't supposed to use it for my tarot reading, but I was like, hey, I might as well do a couple of readings here. And then it just turned into this outlet for me just to read tarot, and my intuition was like in high gear. So I always had an intuition, and I could always read tarot, but I felt like I was reading it from a different place. Like I was being fed information more readily, and I was more connected with this higher intelligence. Okay, so reading tarot was very easy for me, like easier than normal. And these downloads were happening, and I just felt really in tune with spirit, like so much that it was happening kind of in my headspace. So here I'm living in my headspace for a very long time and reading tarot. And then I started feeling so ungrounded and still so tired. I quit my job because I just couldn't. I could not focus. And my pride was, you know, being a working woman, my career, what I've built for myself over a period of time, because I came from a very challenging childhood where it was just important to me to make something of myself. And so I've worked very hard to make something and someone of myself. So I was very attached to that identity. So it came with a feeling like I failed. It came with a feeling of like I had to let go, because I knew something inside of me was telling me it wasn't me. Like it wasn't who I was. It was me at that time, but it wasn't the grand plan for me. Okay. But at this point, I still have no idea what my grand plan is, right? So it's like, how are you going to quit without a plan? Like it just seems kind of not Virgo-ish at all, right? So I'm going to quit my job. I have nothing. But I was like, even if I wanted to stay, I couldn't, because I couldn't do my job. I could not function. Okay. Very tired. So after I quit, I was literally bedridden. And I say bedridden, I mean, I could go to the washroom, and I could go, you know, I don't know, to the kitchen, maybe make a snack or something, but I had no energy to do anything, and I had no desire. And that was the thing. And it wasn't that I was like sad. I felt like I was going crazy. So here I am in my mind, feeling like I'm ungrounded, feeling very much in outer space. And so I got a whole bunch of crystals that I normally had, because I was already into crystals, but grounding stones to try to ground myself. And then I thought, I got to stop the tarot, because the house is helping me. I'm constantly in my intuition and reading and getting to the spiritual place that I've lost touch with reality. I lost touch with reality. Okay. And so my only solitude was sleep, was closing my eyes to go to sleep. But even then I felt like I was exhausted, because I was doing things in my dream. But it was like, at least, I don't know, I could excuse it in some sort of way, but I'd wake up really tired. Like, what marathon was I running? What was my mind trying to sort? Like I was trying to sort through something here, okay? And so throughout this whole thing, you're still energetically unable to detach from your twin flame. So throughout this whole time, it's like, I don't know how this person fits into what I'm experiencing here, but there's something. So like I said, I'm looking online, I'm trying to find answers, and I'm like, how long is this like energy going to stick with me? Like I felt like I was, I don't know, like being spiritually attacked in some way, right? So after that, I had the dark night of the soul, and this is where I want to hopefully add some guidance to someone here. And it wasn't one night only. This is a period of very intense, I would say probably a month, but it was like gradual, and then like for a week, like really intense, and then petered out again. I don't know, for a month, maybe, probably longer. It seems like a month, but it might have been longer. And what this was me and my mind, so much so that all of a sudden I felt my mind explode in some way, because it started getting so tight and confined with my thoughts and on repeat in some way, that I was like about to snap mentally. Like something was just snapping, and something did snap. And what snapped there was like, I felt this intense, like bring me to my knees pain of death. Okay, like death, like everything I've known and everything that I was, and every bit of me was like, ugh, like just you feel it, like, you know, like you're losing a child, you're losing a piece of yourself, you're feeling this like heavy sadness, and you're just crying and crying and crying. And so bouts of crying would happen like clockwork, constant, like all of a sudden I'm crying. But after you cry so much, you're literally like, I'm over all of this. What am I crying? Like, I'm over my job, I'm over my marriage, I'm over this person who wants nothing to do with me, with my twin flame, I'm over my need for anyone or anything, I'm over all of this. Like, just stop. So I'm like praying, like, I can't understand what you want from me, because all I have is like this sadness. So this takes a while, because you don't surrender right away, but the pain is so much that you eventually surrender, because you don't want to be in that state. Okay, you don't want to be in that state. So you're like feeling this deep sadness and the pain, like you've lost a child, and it comes in these really deep gut soul painful ways, just at random. Like, you could just be all of a sudden, you know, cooking, and then all of a sudden it's like you're on your knees next thing, and you're feeling saddened about something you cannot mentally tie back to. And that was the thing, I couldn't tie it back to anything. And at first I was attributing things to it, like, oh, like, I feel I miss my parents, you know, and oh, like, what's happening to me? Like, all these like saddened things. And then I was like, I can't feel anything more about this. I can't feel anything more about losing my parents. I can't feel anything more about what I've experienced. I can't feel anything more for my twin flame. I can't feel anything more about my saddened state. I can't feel it. But I'm soul connecting to a loss and a grieving that is so deep, that still comes through me as a deep, deep, deep soul murder. Okay, it's a soul murder. I wouldn't even call it sadness, because it's not like all of a sudden you feel sad. It's like all of a sudden you're intensely going through this agony of pain. So it comes through, and then right around the same time that started, I started getting intense, and this is why I thought it was bipolar, intense feelings of gratitude. And I can't even explain to you guys, and you'll know if you've experienced this. I wouldn't even call it like, well, it could be bliss in some way, but it was like you're at the feet of God, or like your whole world in front of you is this magical spiritual God in front of you, and you're this little minuscule blip here in front of God. And so you have a feeling of being unworthy in a way to be at the front of God, but also so gifted and loved by having the opportunity to be witnessing God. So I'm witnessing God is exactly how I felt, because I can't even explain this feeling. Like, this isn't like a happy feeling. This is a feeling I've never had in my life, outside of like you're witnessing this miracle of God, and you're like, oh my God, but you're also feeling like you're nothing at the same time, but you know you're not nothing, because you kind of feel a part of God, or like you're given this opportunity to have life, but you feel so, I can't even explain it. And if you guys could put a word to it, because I don't think there are any words to this, right? So as you're experiencing this like deep, and I call it gratitude, because it really, that feeling came through strong. It's like, I'm so grateful, and I'm so loved, and I feel so much love. Like, my heart felt so expansive. So there's such a thing as heart activation as well. And during this period of time, this is heart activation, because your heart opens up so much so that you feel this deep sense of love, like deep sense of love. And so at that point, I was like, I have never loved until today. Like, I have never loved is what I thought, you know, and I have children. I love my children, you know, and, you know, I'm 44. Of course I've loved, but I've never loved. I can't even explain that feeling of once you tap into that space in your heart. I was like, did I have a wall? Was I fighting love? But I thought I was, you know, someone who was in tune with my emotions and my feelings, and expressive and heartfelt and compassionate and all these things. But until my heart opened up, I was like, have I ever loved? Like, have I ever experienced this? No, like, never. So you feel this. So you're so like in this state of, I can't even put it into words, because this would come in waves as well. So this started coming in waves, and the bouts of everything, this girl is bipolar, because it really was. And then the bouts of the deep sorrow, sadness. So you're like, you're wanting to feel that feeling you had, but you're not liking the highs and the lows. So you're like, can I just go back to normal? Like, I trade anything to go back to normal. So there's a lot of bargaining here, you know, with spirit, with God. And I need tissue. So with spirit, with God, and you're just like, just wanting to go back to normal. You just want to go back to normal, no matter how good or blissful or whatever that is. And no matter, you know, what your experience is, just like, I just want to be ignorant. I don't want to know what this is because I'm still so tired. Okay, so throughout this period, you're up or down and you're going through this. And then you're still trying to search information about what's going on with you, you know, and you come across, you know, all of this information. So I was feeling like energy just flowing through my body, and here, like when my heart was opening, it was definitely energy because I could feel that surge. Okay, and this is Kundalini, which I think this is just very gradual because all of this energy would manifest in different ways in me, and sometimes it'd come in as pain and grieving, and sometimes it'd come in as a deep sense of like gratitude and bliss, like so intense, you know, like you couldn't even function. You're like down, like I say, on your knees. But either way, you're crying about it. Okay, so I think everything manifests through me in some way, or my energy comes out in crying is how it comes out. And I don't know if that happens with people, but I just start crying. Okay, so, and I could be crying feeling perfectly fine, but I'm just crying. So during this time, then you know, I'm trying different things. I'm trying to open my chakras. I'm trying meditation. And so the meditation really helps. So if you're going through anything, like if it's a spontaneous Kundalini, that's difficult, okay, because that's very sudden energy, a surge of energy, and then you're kind of in this weird state, and you might not know what the F is happening. So I'm very thankful and grateful that this was gradual, although, you know, at that time when you ask me, I'd be like, I just wish none of this is happening, because I'm scared and thinking I'm going crazy, and I can't control any of this, and I just feel like my whole world is upside down, like nothing, I couldn't hang on to anything, and I couldn't make sense of anything, and it seemed like I was alone, and I couldn't explain this without sounding crazy. So I'd rather just be like, you know, detached. So yeah, like the meditation, after certain meditations, and I think pain, when you feel for the last time, well, hopefully the last time, you feel that deep sadness, you're like, I have to find an answer. And when you crack open your heart, it's almost like that heart energy comes in contact with your grieving, and it makes a peace. And so instead of carrying the energy in your head, I did a meditation that I found online that kind of allowed my energy from my head to go to my heart. And I felt like once I was able to move my energy to my heart space, like my true heart space, after it was open, now I understand why I wasn't able to go there, because my heart needed to open. So now I carry that energy. Sorry, it's so metaphysical. I don't know how else to explain it, but with meditation, you'll feel the energy, and it's not a thought, and it's not trapped. It's like the energy then kind of moves to the heart space. It's like a peace, and it's not even a happiness. It's not an emotion of anything. It's just a true satori bliss. It's peacefulness, and it's like a knowing of a return to self, and it's centered and it's grounded. And so this would come in little glimpses. And so I could put my pain there. And so I was like finding it like, oh, this kind of helps, but I'm a little skeptical. And then more and more as the pain would come, or the energy within me to kind of try to knock me off my feet, it's like I could focus back into that heart space and kind of balance it out a little. But the pain sometimes would override, and I'd still be, you know, in these big bouts of feeling this deep sorrow, death. So I've been maintaining my meditation, and there's still so much crying. Like throughout almost every single meditation, I would cry and cry and cry, and I'm like, what the fuck am I crying about? Like, I'm crying. And you know, there are obviously past life experiences we have. I've done past life therapy, and I've had some pretty traumatic past lives. And in the two that I remember doing that were most intense, I lost my two children in both of them. My mom in real life lost a child, so I was brought up with the loss of her child because I came around shortly after this, so I experienced a lot of that pain. And her mother lost more than one child, several children. So there's something about child loss for me that I was connecting to. yeah, that I was connecting to. And that's what it felt like. It really felt like that. So I don't know if your pain and suffering will feel like a loss of a child, but every time I connected to, because this was so deep, like I couldn't even compare this to losing my parents. It was like losing your child is what it felt like. And God forbid I haven't lost a child, knock on wood. But it was that sort of a feeling, and you're just like paralyzed and helpless and bartering, bargaining. You want it's to end, you just don't find a way out, right? And so it's deep and intense, and then it kind of goes away. So throughout this meditation, the crying comes in bursts, but I feel like the only time it ever really comes is when you learn how to really meditate with self, where you detach from your thought and just sit with your energy. Everything that's on the surface, it comes up, and you just have to let it be. Don't attribute a thought to it. Don't try to make it a thing, because at first I was always trying to put an experience or a thought as to why I was feeling this way, and that's what was bugging me. It was like, oh, it's because I haven't grieved this. It's because, you know, I feel detached. It's because of whatever thing I was saying. It's like I haven't fully experienced the grieving of my parents or this or that or whatever the thing was. It was like, no, because when I feel that feeling, I couldn't tie it back to anything, you know? And so this grieving process is still happening. I mean, it's been like, you know, over 2 years now, and I still feel like when I meditate, not every time I meditate now, but I'll tap into that bucket, and all of a sudden it overtakes me, you know? So there definitely is that. And I don't know, you know, if that's ever, well, I kind of know that that's not always going to be the case. And I kind of know that eventually I can deal with these emotions that are coming up and put them in and flush them out, so they don't have to be trapped inside me. And it's almost like bubbles. So energetically throughout also this time, I was like, have I had a Kundalini? You know, because you read these intense stories of people who've experienced it, and you're like, well, I don't recall any of my kriyas or any sort of experiences that tied back to it. But now that I look back on how it was gradually going through my body, I do recall the left side of me feeling more energy. But because I've always been in tune with energy, plus been reading intuitively so much, I always have unknown energy or energy around me, and I can kind of move energy about within me, or I don't know, like I have a unique relationship with energy, that whether it's mine or not mine, or like transmuting it or flowing with it. So when this is happening to me, you know, I'm not feeling like all of a sudden recognizing this is energy flowing through me, because energy is always flowing through me. But I do feel when it would get stuck, because I think when it would get stuck in an area was parts of my chakra where I needed to address it, and a lot of it was in my heart. And I think that was the pockets of all of a sudden this punch of grief. And I was like, my heart was so closed, you know, like, and I honestly never would even peg myself as someone with a closed heart ever. But it was closed, right? It was closed. So the opening of the heart was like very painful. And also going through the sacral and the root chakras were, I don't know, like I felt like there was almost like actions that you start to really question, like, why am I drinking, or why am I engaged in this, or why am I doing these things? Like, you really start to question that. So as energy's moving, it's like, I don't need to have this much sugar, or I don't need to be drinking, or I don't need to do any of these things that I'm doing. So I cut back pretty much everything initially, and then I'd be on again, off again, because I was like, okay, do I just quit this? Like, I don't know how this is coming into play. But now I quit everything. Like, I quit coffee, I quit drinking. Not that I was really that big of a drinker anyway, but it was like when I would do it. But now it's like, why do I even do it? I was just doing it just because, right? Food for me, it tastes different. I'm not as big on food as much as I was before. Yeah, it's just it just doesn't, I don't know, I'm just not in the same sort of habitual energy that I was. And then transmuting sexual energy, like I feel like I can hone my energy through me to create creativity. Like I don't feel sexual energy outwards. Like I feel it flowing through me as creativity. So I can just like transmute that energy in through me, and it feels like I feel stronger. I feel like more in control. I feel more confident. I feel more like I'm utilizing this energy in such a positive way that it feels very peaceful. So, and then the more I'd meditate as practice, and chakra meditation, which is very helpful. If you're interested in that, let me know, because I can certainly share with you the ones that work. But opening the heart chakras to allow the energy to flow. And so recently, the last opening of chakras I did around the throat chakra, I started getting a weird feeling. And so I don't know if the energy has started from my root and is working its way up as Kundalini would, and might be kind of sitting somewhere in my throat chakra, because I was always someone who was very expressive, and I felt like there again, I didn't need a whole lot of cleansing. I didn't feel like there was stuck energy just from my experience. But throat chakra could also mean how well we listen to others. And so I might be very challenged in opening myself up to hearing other people. So I feel like this has become into my awareness now. And so I do feel energy, flowing through me. So back to the Kundalini energy, is almost like certain nights I'd feel very tingly. Okay, but this isn't very intense stuff. I'm talking just tingles throughout, almost like, when you work out and you feel really good. Well, at least I like the energy when I work out. I'm like, my body feels kind of tired, but it's like tingly, and I like it because I feel I had a really good workout, and I take those tingles as like my, my fat cells being burnt away and my muscles are like vibrating. That's exactly how I felt. Like my muscles are vibrating, or my energy inside me is vibrating, even though I wasn't working out. So I feel that way. My left side mostly, because it's energy flows that way, where the heart space is mostly through the left side. You could feel it generally. Again, how you feel it, I don't know. I sometimes will feel tingling in my back, but it is very brief, and it's not very intense at all. And then there was a period of I'd say a week, maybe not even that, 3 days, where I'm like feeling kind of peaceful, and then all of a sudden kind of feel this like sadness, and then I'm laughing. Okay, you think I'm bipolar? I swear to God, I'm like laughing. There's nothing to laugh at, and I'm laughing and I'm laughing, and I'm just like, what is going on? So I'm expressing this energy by laughter, by whatever it is, and however the energy was coming out of me at that point in time. But I mean, now I'm not laughing as much as I was then, but it was just weird. Like, I still can't explain why I was laughing, just like be sitting there, and all of a sudden I'd find it funny. I'd find it funny to laugh. So a lot of these feelings, I would say, would come with no mental experience attributed to it, and there's no emotion you could really tie to it. Like, yeah, you could feel it. So I'm saying like a guttural, like, soulness, but it wasn't tied to I feel sad. It was almost like I'm experiencing sadness in a very profound, deep way, or I'm experiencing gratitude, or I'm experiencing love, like experiencing that thing. You're experiencing that emotion in that time, and it's so intense. So yeah, and none of it makes sense. You can't logically put a whole lot of sense, and you don't know if it's getting better. And then you enter a place of a void. So I felt like at a certain point I wasn't sad, and I wasn't thrilled, and I felt like I lost everything and everyone, and I had nothing really to look forward to so much. And it wasn't that I was depressed. So it was almost like depression, because I was like, this must be depression then, because everything that I liked to do in the past, I didn't do. Like, I didn't want to work on my site, and I really didn't want to work. Like, there was nothing that would excite me. There was nothing that I wanted to invest in or spend time with. So yeah, that sucked worse than I think being in the dark night, even though, like I said, it's like you're trying to bargain anything to get out of those times, but at least you have ups and downs and the good times or the highs to kind of counteract. But the void is a constant void of, you want to off yourself. Okay, so I hope you don't want to, but there were several times there where I was just like, I think I probably could die now and I'd be just perfectly okay with that, because there is nothing I'm here living for, and everything I've experienced has been enough, and yeah, and I could see this. I could see myself like being done with life, and I didn't know if these were my thoughts or where these thoughts were coming from. And, I've never had thoughts like this, so it was kind of like interesting. So I started seeing my hypnotherapist, which is helping me with the past lives, and trying to explain to him some of what I was experiencing. And he'd put me under meditations to see other past lives, and that's how I knew there was another life where I lost children and where my twin flame and I were involved in this, although the roles were flipped. So it kind of added extra information here for me of what's been going on. But yeah, now it has nothing to do with my twin flame or anything, or even past experiences. I don't really care to know anything except for releasing of trapped energy for me, like healing and getting closer to my authentic self. So I just feel like right now I am detached from a lot, but I'm also hopeful, and I also feel very loved, like inside. Like I feel so like grateful to be alive. And oh yeah, other experiences, like I would just walk outside, like I just start walking, and I'm not really a walking type person. I mean, I like walking, but just I wouldn't just go out. But I started getting like, I did not want to be like stuck again with energy because of being in my room, like I said, and just like stuck there for so many months and feeling so secluded. I was like, hey, I gotta get out there. So when the weather was nice, it was like just planting my feet on the ground, going for walks, and I was doing this. And then those bouts of energy would come through those walks too. It was like the meditation, but it's like I'd look around and I'd see like beauty, and it would just hit me with this like beauty. And so I was getting more of that gratitude feeling, but like so profound, like looking at the sky or looking at the trees and they've come alive, and the leaves, and like even in the fall, like here I'd be looking and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I could feel the energy of nature. And I don't know why I've never seen it this way before, where you could pass a tree and not acknowledge it, or see people, I could see people and then all of a sudden I'm start crying, like, because I could feel, start crying. I could feel someone I don't even know, like energetically. And I'm just like, like, I understand you, it's like, I don't know. It's so crazy. So sorry. It's very profound. But it's happy, it's I don't know, happy is the word. It's a word that hasn't been made before, but it's a peacefulness within you. And I guess it's oneness in some way. But I don't know necessarily that I feel so much as seeing everything around me as one yet, because I still kind of get pulled into everyday reality here. And like, there's been a couple of instances where I'd get into, like with my daughter, like an argument or something that was very much matrixy, whereas like I do it, but now I'm like aware and I'm like observing like why I said what I said, and I'm always trying to be very present and aware. And it's like, is this a habit of how I used to be? And is this how I want to be? Or do I want to be someone who is very conscious and present of what I say and what I do here? So there is realness, there's presence, there's living in the now, there's being very, an energy about me of being very open. Even like in meditation, it's like my eyes are closed, but I feel my eyes are open behind my eyes because I'm looking. I'm looking at everything around me that's still, and it's like I feel the stillness and I feel at peace. And it's like I'm no longer in my head. I'm no longer obsessing. I'm no longer any of this. Now, the dreams still happen, so I still have profound dreams that happen. And I feel like whatever emotion I was feeling in my dreams is what it was trying to kind of tell me, because it was all about the emotion, not necessarily what was happening in that dream. So if I was feeling anxious or if I was feeling this, it was like reflecting back to me what I was feeling in my real life. So that's important. But I would suggest just keeping a journal, because I started to track my dreams so I could remember and look back, and now it kind of makes sense. But during that time I was like, they didn't seem tied so much, but now it kind of ties in. So yeah, there was all of that. I'm trying to see if there was any other significant things that happened. No, I don't know necessarily if the energy has exited my crown chakra, but I feel like when I started doing more readings and being very spatial, I guess, it was like Father Spirit already opened my crown chakra and is coming down and triggered my Kundalini, my mother energy. And that started to rise within me very slowly. So I don't know if it's completely escaped or if there's still pockets of trauma and things that, as the energy moves through me, that I still need to work on or release or see. And I no longer feel the need to actively go and release it, although I'll continuously do my meditation, and if it happens, it happens. And I'm not actively trying to do anything at all or even change who I am so much, because before I was like, okay, I got to be peaceful, or I have to be more in tune so I could be more zen or be more. And it's like, no, now it's like I don't need to be anything but just how I am and just observe it. You know, like if I'm feeling angry, I'll feel angry. If I'm feeling peace, I feel peace. If I, whatever I'm feeling in the moment, I'm just aware of it. I'm not in a sleep unconsciousness action of it. It's like I'm consciously looking at it now, and it's like, why am I doing this? So I can reflect later on meditation. It's like, was that something I wanted to do, or was that just an energy I was encompassing? You know, but I think once I released any expectation of anything, it's like I don't want anything. I don't want anything but what is supposed to be mine, and I feel like I already have everything. So there isn't a desire for anything, but there isn't a feeling of, and it's different than the void. So it's not like there is no desire for something. So you could think, well, it kind of feels, ugh, but it's like I feel whole and full and peaceful and zen. And it's like, like I literally feel like there's a warm blanket around me. And at a certain point, it's like I could touch base with my twin flame, where I feel like, oh, like I could feel an energy and it feels peaceful. It feels like, you know, I don't need to be in the presence of my twin flame. I could feel the energy as kind of one melding together, and that's enough. Like I don't need anything else. And even then, it's like I still want my autonomy. I still want to feel my own energy, and I do not want to energetically trigger anything further, because I feel like, I don't know, his energy was like a catalyst in some way, and it was like very stuck to my energy. It almost felt like I couldn't detach from it. So no matter how much I fight it, so it was almost like I don't even fight it. Maybe I don't acknowledge it in the same way, because I feel like it is one and melded, but I no longer focus on it as being separate or energetic thing that's there. Because at first it's like it's constantly there, like a buzzing of a fridge, like it's constantly there. And it was like, you know, at first you're like, okay, because you like your twin flame, so it's like cool, you feel your twin flame energy whether you're together or not together. But then after a while, it's like, if your twin flame isn't in your life, it's like, why is this energy here? And like, how do you do anything with that, right? And it almost feels like it's kind of impeding now, because it's like you cannot detach, you cannot make it go away, and you can't do anything with it either, or so it felt. But what I felt was like I meditate to cleanse my energy, and I feel like if his energy was anywhere around me, it would just get cleansed with whatever my energy is. But then at a certain point of satori and peace, it's like I could find a peaceful place there where I feel at one, I feel connected, and I don't feel a separation. I don't feel like I'm being pulled at. Now sometimes I feel being pulled at, but not as much. And sometimes at first, I think what really triggered me thinking this is Kundalini is because the pull of energy was so strong from the divine, that I felt like I was being stretched out of my body. When I first started doing the readings and stuff, why I was so ungrounded, it was like pulled. And then I was also being pulled by my twin flame energetically. So I felt a pulling of me. And as we know, our twin flame is our energy. So I don't know, like that's stretching. And I think we're stretching ourselves and our consciousness into a new being that's able to manage the energy that's flowing. So it's quite the experience. But I think this is pretty much all I really wanted to say. Just there is a light at the other side. Just coming closer to remembering who you are, and it's bits and pieces. And like I said, these stages could be happening at the same time, and one stage will happen after another. I still see the synchronicities with numbers, but now it's so peaceful. But it does come in waves, because for a period of time it did stop when I asked for it to stop, because it was spooking me out and I wasn't sure what it was trying to tell me, especially all the different numbers. It's like, why am I seeing all these different numbers? So my twin flame and I are in separation. So I start seeing numbers again, like very repetitively, and I'm just like, I'm not making anything out of it. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to do anything. I'm just being me. And I feel like I'm already where I want to be, and maybe I shouldn't cap myself here, but I feel peace. And, you know, and at first it was like, I want more for myself than just, what do I do? I mean, I read cards online, but I feel like I lost such big parts of me. It's like, now what? But it's like, I'm okay. I don't need anything or anyone. I don't need it. So I don't know what's in store for me. So I don't know. I just, you find a peace in that, you know, and there is a little bit of sadness that comes with it. And that's what I find what enlightenment is. It's like, with this sadness comes this happiness, but it's not even sad and happy. It's like these polarity, it's duality, you know, there's the dark and then there's the light. And then you kind of take both of it and you find a middle ground that is neutral. It's neither happy nor sad. It's neither light or dark. It's like Zen, and it's not that void energy. In a way it kind of is a little bit, but I'm still kind of, like I said, going through it, because it is kind of void, because I still maybe haven't found my purpose yet. I don't know, like, what is my purpose? My purpose might just be being, and that's okay. But it's like that middle energy is so, you know, it's not up and it's not down, and it's so opposite from what I was. But I'm a very anxious person, so I feel like I'm still working through anxious things, because when I meditate, sometimes I'll feel anxious and I'll have really bad, not bad, but meditation sessions where nothing happens, or I feel like I still haven't been able to, you know, reach point. And other times I'll just kick into meditation. I'm like, I feel so complete. I feel peace and I feel one, and I'll open my eyes and I'm still meditating, and I'll be entering into conflicting situations and I'm still meditating, and I'm still Zen, and I'm still whole, and I'm still peace. And then sometimes I'll meditate and it's like, I can't get there. It kind of feels like I had too many cups of coffee. So I find if I did have coffee, that would interfere with my, you know, my meditation. So I feel like caffeine, you know, just try to lay off it so you could find that nice middle place. But because yeah, sometimes I'll meditate and I don't find that. But I feel like I'm going through trying to find why I am so anxious. And one thing I was able to uncover, was deep in my shadow, was being brought up feeling never really safe, you know, like never really feeling safe, and things that became normal were not normal, you know, where there were a lot of instances and experiences I had where my life was literally in danger by randoms as a child, you know, and even my parents, like, it was not a safe place for a child, and feeling always on guard, but it became my energy. So, but I didn't feel like I was a defensive adult. I felt like I was very open and I was very understanding of energies and people and situations, but I didn't realize how much it impacted the soul of who I was. So I was always anxious and always kind of on guard until I had kids, and it became extra hypersensitive where I needed to protect them, and I became the extra anxious person that I was. So it was just always around me, and it was like I couldn't ever just allow myself to be, you know. And so that energy, I had to find out where that was. And because I didn't even know that was a thing I had, because it was who I was, until I meditated and I could find the contrast. I was like, holy, was I ever like wound up like a ball, you know, thinking I needed control in a way, because then I felt safe, and then I felt like things were like, I felt safe, you know, and I felt unsafe with my twin flame. I felt like not protected. I felt exposed. I felt like I wanted safety. And so I think it triggered that within me, where I was like, I don't feel safe. And now I like quit my job, so for sure my security is like gone, and I feel like all of the things that I clung on to for feeling secure or safe were just not there for me or around, or at least it was false, so I didn't want it anyway. So it was like trying to find that, and it was like when I connected to my heart, it was like I found the safety, I found the protection, I found me, and I'm all I need to be safe, and I don't have anything to be anxious about. So you find the peace and you let go of everything else. All right, so that's my story. I hope this helped you guys, and I probably, like I said, won't be posting any readings at least for another week or so till the new moon, where I'll be doing the zodiac readings for you guys. Thank you so much for finding me or finding this video useful. I'd like to know what you're going through in the comments. I hope this helped you. So much love and light, and I will see you soon. Bye.